Welcome to Soar Higher with Jason Ballard, a podcast developed for leaders by leaders to inspire you to reach your highest altitude possible by providing proven strategies, resources, and expert advice to accelerate your personal and professional success beyond what you thought was possible. I'm Joel Weiland, and I'm joined today in studio by your host, Jason Ballard. And today we're going to be talking about whether leaders are born or made. Welcome to the show.
Hey, Joe. Good to see you again, buddy.
Man, it is good to see you again, Jason. It's been a week since we have been able to hang out, and I'm excited for our topic today. We started off last week with just kind of a overarching 30,000-foot view of leadership. Big category, lots to say on that. So I think we're going to dive back into that today and talk about whether or not leaders are born or made. We kind of left off with that question last week, and so I think it would be really cool to answer that question, decide what that really means, and kind of delve into it a little bit deeper. But before we even get started on that, I was thinking that maybe we should look at a lot of the misconceptions that people have about leadership in general. So you've been in the professional sphere for a lot of years now. What are some misconceptions that people have about leadership?
So I think that's code for a lot of years equals you're getting old, Jason. I appreciate
well,
that, Joe.
You're looking pretty good, brother. You're looking pretty good.
Leadership is a very dynamic topic, as you were alluding to. It means a lot of different things to a lot of different people, and there's levels of it, tiers of it, just intricacies of it that really takes a lot of study, a lot of exercising, things you learn over years to really hone in and be good at it. And some of in almost my 30 years of being out there in the world and in leadership positions and different things that I've come across, and even with my colleagues, there are a lot of misconceptions out there about leadership, Joel. People think they're a leader. Sometimes it's almost like inherited, like, oh, well, I did a great job. Now I am a manager. I'm a supervisor. I'm a team leader. I'm a whatever. And automatically, when they get the title of manager, supervisor, what have you, they automatically implies in a lot of people's minds that they're a quote unquote leader.
Yeah.
And in many cases, that is not true. Supervisors and managers definitely can have leadership qualities, but it doesn't automatically, by default, make somebody a leader. So there are misconceptions out there that, it has to do with title. I have a VP title, I have a C-suite title, or a director title. That automatically makes me a leader. Somebody recognizes me as a leader. Another misconception is the fact that they've been in the professional industry for X amount of years. I've been out there 5 years, so now I'm a leader. Or I've been in doing something for 10 years, so now I'm automatically a leader. And it really has nothing to do with whether you're a leader or not. There's also some other misconceptions out there, like, I made it to the top. I got that VP role. I got that corner office. I got the fancy business card with the raised letters that says I'm a leader on it, and it's glossy and shiny, and I feel good about it. I may have a parking spot out in front of the building, and I'm a leader, and I made it. I accomplished something I've been working hard for so long. And they go in their office, they kick their feet up on the desk, like, I made it. My life is easy.
Yeah.
Now I have all these people, I have all these resources and budgets, and my life just got easier. It's like they think they won the lottery or something. In actuality, that's not true.
Definitely not.
As you grow as a leader, those responsibilities grow with you. And the scope of those things, the breadth of those things, the complexities of those things gets more and more challenging. and it doesn't get easier. You can't put your feet up on the desk. You can't just take it easy and yell out tasks and demands outside the office. Can't just email people from behind the desk all day and give out tasks and orders and expect them to, execute those things with pinpoint precision, and all your dreams come true. You go home at 4, you play golf, and your life is, everybody's there to make your life easier. In actuality, as a leader, you're judged by how well you continue to serve. Leadership's about service.
Wow. Okay, so let's talk about that a little bit more. I guess from my own personal history, just growing up in the family I did, there was definitely a misconception of like, oh, I get to be the boss man now. Like I get to be the one that tells everyone else what to do, and I can not necessarily sit back and put my feet up, but I don't have the same amount of responsibility. I'm entitled to a specific or different, not necessarily style of living or anything like that, but it's just separated and different from the people that I'm working with and potentially are working for me. So tell me a little bit more about that servant aspect of leadership.
Yeah. There's a quote: leadership is not about how many people serve you. It's about how many people you serve yourself. Whether that's 2 people or 2,000 people, how many people are you serving?
That's really profound.
Whether it's in the church, the community, your home, your life, your business, how many people are you serving? And so for the folks out there that are listening to this podcast, stop right now and think about how many people am I serving? Can you count them on one hand, or do you need a calculator to count on them? The more people you serve, the more people you help, the more engaged you are, normally, the better leader you are.
That's really interesting. So I guess my next question would be, can those two things be separated? Can you lead someone and not serve them?
No.
Wow, that's interesting. Because I can think in my own life of the people that I serve. And then there's some people, honestly, and I'll just have to admit to this, but there's people that I've tried to lead, I think, in the past without that service mentality. And looking back, hindsight's 2020, I wasn't a very good leader, and they didn't do anything that I asked them to do. But man, like the people that I'm thinking about now, just like either fellow people in my workforce, family members specifically. Family members specifically. Like, if I'm not serving my family, I'm not leading very well. That is a really profound thought.
So there's a difference between leadership and management. We've talked about this a little bit earlier in a previous podcast. Describing what you were or explaining what you were originally describing is management. If you're not serving people and you're just kind of overseeing them, you are really just managing them, managing their timesheets, signing off on their leave request, doing something in the company, to set up giving them a project, or looking at what they're doing and giving them feedback, or basic management kinds of things, where you're managing people from that sense. Yes. Leading people, you actually have to serve them. You have to be out in front of them. You have to be engaged with them. You have to know them. You have to know their strengths. You have to know what their personal, professional, aspirations are, how to connect them and their team and their expertise to the broader aspects of what's going on in the organization. And you got to align those things up. And then as a leader, ultimately, you got to go around and be asking the questions: how are you today? What is in your way I can help you with? What tools do you need? What resources do you need? I just gave you a bunch of work to do. I gave you a big new client or big new project, and you've got to go execute that with your team. And you're going to have roadblocks. You're going to have questions. You're going to have concerns. Things are not going to go perfectly according to some game plan somebody came up with. So as a leader, you got to be anticipating that, way out in front of that, and then constantly be engaged in that, not getting in the middle, managing it for them, but engaged and wrapped around that to make sure they are completely set up for success in that situation.
And I can really resonate with that. And it seems like again, comparing management to leadership / service, like service seems to be something that would be really difficult to fake. Like I've seen plenty of people. I remember some jobs I had right out of high school where the quote unquote leaders, managers more so, were just very entitled. A lot of the things that you were talking about, they thought that they had arrived. They thought that they were the boss now because they had the fancy name tag or the slightly nicer business card, things like that. But service seems like something that is just impossible to fake. Would you agree with that?
Absolutely. Yeah, you cannot fake it. And if you do, and there's people out there that do, I've met my fair share of them, meet them all the time in my line of work that are constantly, there's constant friction.
Yeah.
When people are fake and insincere about their leadership, about how much they're engaged, about how willing they are to put skin in the game, to help set other people up for success, people can see that a mile away. I mean, it's just like the old adage I think John Maxwell has in some of his principles. Leadership, when you're leading correctly, when people know you care about them. People will not stay late. They're not going to go the extra mile. They're not going to, work overtime. They're not going to go into a burning building to pull you out of it.
Yeah.
If something bad happened, and pull you out of that unless they know how much you care about them. Would you do the same things for them? Are you going to work overtime? And I've seen a lot of leaders that are really managers in situations where they will be the first ones out of the building, out of the people in their teams on a regular basis. They're one of the later ones to come in. So when you've got a group of people that are looking at their leadership, and leaders are supposed to be examples, right?
Yeah.
So when people see the leadership coming into work later than they do and leaving before they do and doing some things different with different expectations than what's on them, then they see that instantly. You can't fake that. You can't hide that. When you're a leader, it's like you are living in a fishbowl, like a goldfish.
Yeah.
People see everything you do. They hear everything you say. They watch how you respond to questions, and they see how you interact in meetings, how you handle stress, pressure. You are constantly under the microscope as a leader, so you cannot hide. And when people see these things, and you're not genuinely engaged, and people don't think you care about them on those levels, then they will not follow you. They will take orders. They will put in their 9 to 5, clock in, clock out. They'll do what's the basics that are expected, but they're not going to be performing as a high, thriving team.
Yeah, absolutely. And I can attest to that just specifically in my own life and career, seeing and working with and for people that were hypocritical, would, leave before everyone else first during the day. There's no real desire within me or the other people I was working with at the time to try harder, to give the extra mile for those people. In your line of work, business coaching, what are some just success stories that you've seen of people that you've worked with, maybe people just in your industry in general, that you have seen transition from this management mindset into a servant leadership mindset? Do you have any stories like that?
Yeah. That transition is tough for many people. And I'll give you a personal example of myself. When I first started out in management and then was elevated into leadership, that is a tough thing to go through, because you become one of them and you are no longer one of us, right? So you're going to not be one of the guys or one of the gals anymore.
Yeah.
That's a tough thing for people to accept and deal with, because when you're not one of us anymore and you're one of them, the dynamics change.
Certainly. Can't be everyone's friend.
You cannot be everybody's friend as a leader. You can't do everything to make everybody happy all the time. It's just not going to happen. In fact, a great mentor of mine growing up through the years was a man named Colin Powell.
Really?
Former Secretary of State, former Chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, ran the military back in the 90s when we went to the first Gulf War, Desert Storm, all that kind of stuff. And one of his mantras that he talks about in his leadership experiences that I learned from, and it just kind of burned a kind of a hole in my brain, is if you are a leader and you are doing your job correctly, you will probably be ticking people off every once in a while. If you're not, in his terms, pissing people off every once in a while, as a leader, not every day, not every minute of the day, but throughout the weeks and months, there will be times where you're going to piss somebody off. And that's perfectly okay.
Yeah.
As long as it's moral, legal, ethical, and there's not a lot of like negativity and harm that's kind of derived from that, right? But assuming all that, some people get things, some people don't. Some people just decide to not go along with things, not understand things. They don't understand the full breadth of decisions that are made and the consequences of those. They only see things through their perspective. So it's easy to play armchair quarterback if you're not the leader and when people are making decisions and doing things. But if, as a leader, you got to do what's in the best interest of the organization for the long run. And sometimes some people don't get all that and they get confused, misunderstand, whatever that may, just may not even agree. That's okay. The goal is not to be popular, not to, go around and try to convince everybody of every little thing, because that's not leading, that's appeasing.
Yeah.
The goal is to be a leader that's respected.
Man, that's a big word.
Regardless of whether they like you or not. It's great to be liked, but really what you're aiming for is to be respected for the position you have, respected for the responsibilities you have, and that when you do make a decision, whether you like it or not, you're going to get in line and work together as a team to do whatever needs to happen. But some leaders really, really struggle with that.
Yeah.
And then that they take it personally, and then it creates conflict and friction, and things normally will go bad from there.
Yeah. And it sounds like even though sometimes it's very, very difficult and people might not always like you the most, sometimes the best serving you can do for somebody is telling them that they're wrong, or making a decision that is overall best for them, or maybe even for the company at large. But it's not necessarily the decision that they like the most in the given moment.
Yeah. Well, everybody's different, and it sometimes takes people a while to understand things, because unless you walked a mile in somebody's shoes, it's hard to fully understand what that's like. And so sometimes I've been in situations where, we were in tough situations. We were under duress and pressure and stress, and we had a lot of things going on, and we had to make decisions, and we did the best we could with what we had, and we executed, and some people didn't like it. People, talked bad about me and gossiped about me. I can't believe he did that. And why did we do this? And why didn't we do that? And, that's hard to swallow because I knew it was happening, but I knew it was the right thing to do. I knew that the folks that I was surrounded by were on board. Everybody, generally speaking, was in agreement. These were the right things to do per the conditions we were in. And you just have to come to realize there's a 20-60-20 rule out there, Joel. And for the audience listening, this is really powerful. You should take this down because this will save you some stress simply thinking about it in this manner. If you're a leader and you are leading a group of people, 20%, statistically speaking, 20% of those people will always follow you. Hey, that sounds great because they like you, they've gotten to know you, they understand you, they have a good attitude, they're in a good place, they're a certain mindset, or whatever the conditions may be. They're just on board and things are going well and they want to be a part of it and they're contributing to it. 20% of the people will jump on board the train right off the bat. There's another 20% on the tail end of that. Those people may never get on the train. It's possible to convince them to get on the train, but for whatever reason, they may be just negative, maybe going through a bad time in their life. Maybe they just aren't a good fit in the organization. Maybe they've been there too long. Maybe they're just resistant to change. Whatever the reasons may be, they 20% expect 20% of the people to not get on board the train. Well, that leaves the other 60. Those people are on the fence. Those are, good, hardworking people, and they just want to be led. They just want to do the right things. And where, as a leader, you need to prioritize your time is on that 60%. That they just need to be informed more. They need to, answer questions. You may just need to share more of something with them so they understand it better. Once they understand it better, then they join the other 20% that's already on the train. Now you've got 80, and now you've got the 80-20 Pareto rule going for you, and you just don't worry about the other 20. If they get on the train and you give them the opportunities, you give them the things they need to be a part of the team, and they decide not to, then there's not much you can do about it.
Yeah, true. And man, I really do see where the aspects of respect and servant leadership would be so important there. Just looking back in my own experience with people that I've respected the most through the years, it seems like it's been people that were willing to kind of look me in the eye, pull me aside and say, hey, Joel, you're doing the wrong thing, or you are heading towards destruction. Like you're going to stub your toe and your career's going to end, or you're going to make this terrible decision and something terrible is going to happen in your family. Like the people that I respect the most are the people that would always tell me that I was wrong. So it's awesome to see that kind of leadership just exhibited by you and your example as a business coach. But man, it really does make a difference. Another question, just kind of on the unfortunate negative side of things. We're about halfway through 2022 now. We're coming out of the COVID pandemic, things like that. I wanted to ask how a lot of those misconceptions of leadership, whether that be like I'm the big boss now, my life is easy, I have a title, and so I deserve something. How have those misconceptions hurt the workforce today?
Well, it's pretty simple. Go look at the organizations that are struggling through COVID.
That's a good point.
Who's struggling? Who went out of business? Who's struggling to stay in business? And who's struggling to rebound from it and go forward? Had a conversation with a gentleman this morning. Have a manufacturing business here in Kentucky. They're doing very well. They did kind of absorb the ups and the downs of COVID. They're on the other side of it. And, they provide stuff, to people internationally. So things are kind of rolling for them, and they're growing like crazy, and they're hiring people and trying to really, take off with this company. And it's growing so fast, they can't keep up. And I was like, man, that sounds great. How can I help you? He's like, well, leadership. the leaders we have on the team are more junior leaders.
Yeah.
And they can't keep up. They don't have enough experience to guide and direct and keep up at this pace. And so we're hiring, a lot of what we do is, physical labor, and we're having a lot of turnover. So they're hiring a bunch of people, but a lot of them aren't staying. When those kind of things are happening, those are signs of cracks in the leadership team.
Yeah.
Where there's a lack of communication, lack of teamwork, which connects to the retention issues. People leave an organization for one of three reasons. Bad leader, or a lead, and maybe not even a bad leader, but a leader that isn't big enough to lead the people that they're supposed to be leading in their perception.
Yeah, well enough equipped, maybe.
Exactly. If the employees are looking at the leader and questioning the leadership and their ability to lead and keep up and really be, again, go back to a servant for them to help everybody succeed. If people are struggling and the leader's kind of behind the chains, to use a football analogy, on things, then they lose confidence in the leader and they'll leave. Or it could be just a bad leader too, hollers, yells, whatever that could be. The other reason they leave is a culture. The culture of the company is just not a good fit, or it's just not where it needs to be, and it's negative. It's fear-based or something. And the third reason is they just don't feel valued or appreciated, and they're not being challenged. They're bored. When people are bored, they sit around and gripe. And when they gripe, they get negative. Then the culture goes down. Then they leave, right? So those are really the signs. And so when you look out there in the market today, I kind of, from my vantage point as more of a strategic leader that works across all industries and places all around the world, the places that are struggling to adapt, to create a new norm, to hire people, retain people, take advantage of opportunities in the market that are presented to them right now differently than was before. When people are struggling with those kind of things, that is a symptom. Those are signs of leadership challenges in the organizations.
That's really interesting. Just and not to necessarily gloat, but I work with a pretty small company, but we do not have a retention problem. We don't have a problem finding people to hire. We're hiring people as quickly as we can, and it's awesome to see. But at the same time, I've heard a lot of other stories of either business owners that I brush shoulders with here in Louisville, or just at a macro scale of people saying, "Oh, we can't find enough people." It's interesting because I feel like what I hear you saying is that maybe that says more about their leadership structure and leadership style than just their ability to put out a good ad to find a decent employee.
Well, let me ask you, since you brought it up, my good friend, in the company you're in, why are you not having these issues?
Well, not to sound terribly repetitive, but the owner of our company is just a very respectable gentleman that follows through on his word. He's a good leader, and he puts people, I think this is his greatest strength, he puts people in positions where they can flourish. So he is not the best at everything, and he'll tell you that straight to your face. And so he's put somebody that's better than him at a certain aspect of marketing in a certain position, and that person is given freedom and essentially the authority in that little island, is kind of like what I like to call it, to be able to succeed and grow and create. And that's been honestly probably one of the greatest successes of this company. This company was, I would say this is a bad idea, most likely in any other perspective, but this company was founded and started at 2 different locations at the same time in 2 entirely different states. So I've never heard of that in any kind of business class, like start your company in 2 different states at the same time. But man, because of the people that were put in charge of specific locations and specific responsibilities, the company's been able to flourish.
Yeah. Well, leadership is also about adaptability.
Yeah.
Right. And so what you're describing is a vision for an organization to accomplish something out there in the world where they're giving, where they're, providing something of great need and service to the world. And then they give people the ability to navigate that.
Yeah.
Put the best people, why is Alabama Crimson Tide football team, the top-notch team every year? Why do they get all the top-notch recruits? Why do they keep winning? Whether they win the national championship every year or not, they pretty much do. But when they don't, they're right up there. They're in the championship game or just shy of it, right? They have winning seasons every single year. Why? Because... Go ahead.
I was going to say human sacrifice and bribery, but that's that would give away my not political, but college sports affiliations for sure.
Well, in Alabama's case, I think it's about excellence, right? That when you think of Alabama football, when you think of Coach Nick Saban, you think excellence. You think of discipline. You think of doing things on a certain level. What Nick Saban is really, really good at is discovering talent. He can see that a mile away in somebody, and taking the talent, seeing the vision of them and where they're going to be in 20 years. And he just has that gift. And so he takes that, understands the greater aspects of his team and where those strengths and weaknesses are. And he aligns that team. Many, many times I've watched football, and the broadcasters were talking about a guy that was a quarterback in high school, now is a receiver, now a linebacker or some, they take them and align them to the best position that will bring out the best in them and fill the needs of the team. The company you're working with is smart enough to do the same thing too. So if you're out there listening to this podcast and you're a leader, take note of these simple things that we're talking about. We're talking about setting yourself up best for success, surrounding yourself with top-notch quality people that are qualified to do the things they need to do. You're not scared of them being on the team to make you look bad. You want to surround yourself with people that are smarter than you, that are experts in things you are not, and then strategically place them on the team and then build that culture and synergy around it to get maximum results. And when you do that, it's a winning combination. And it doesn't matter what industry, what size company, it doesn't matter how long you've been in business. That principle is really simply a maker or breaker. Every time I go into a company that's struggling in some form or fashion, there are connections to leadership and there are misalignments in there, whether the leadership recognize that or not.
Yeah, man. Well, let's transition a little bit and just kind of take a step back. This is excellent information, and it's excellent information that I can tell that you've lived out. So let's just take a couple minutes, and if you would, what brought you to this place? What experiences, whether that be life experiences, things that were taught to you, made you into the leader you are today?
Interesting question.
A lot there.
Not an easy one to answer in the amount of time that we have for these podcasts. Really, for me, when I think back on my life, I kind of play the rewind button a little bit, and I think about me as a person, growing up as a kid, transitioning into the workforce, and my journey as a father, a husband, a leader, a business owner, whatever. There are some key touch points there that I think are important. One is discipline.
Yeah.
Discipline is the key to success. And that, for some people, they think of discipline like, the military, you got to be rigid and you got to be, kind of hardcore and, follow the rules and never get out of line. And that's not what I mean. Mm-hmm. Discipline means freedom.
That's really interesting. Unpack that a little bit more, if you would.
Discipline means freedom. So let's give you a simple example. If you want to be financially free, get rid of debt, get rid of stress, live an easier life, the only way you're going to do that, well, there's two ways, but really one. Mm-hmm. One, you win the lottery and you pay live the greatest life ever. But a majority of people that win the lottery end up bankrupt before they're dead.
Certainly.
Why? Lack of discipline. So if you want to be financially free in this world that we live in, and you don't win the lottery, inherit a bunch of money from some lost long uncle you never knew you had that makes all your dreams come true, which most people don't, you have to have discipline. You've got to create a budget. You've got to live within your means. You've got to save some money. You got to put stuff away and save some money for college for your kids. You got to be disciplined. There's a rule in money. Pay yourself first, or you will never get paid because somebody else will take that money before you can put it away.
Oh, yeah.
Put it away first, right? Well, the same is true in other areas of life. If you want to be a successful and thriving company, you have to be disciplined to your vision. You can't just be chasing things all over God's green earth when you see something new or shiny. Not that you can't adapt, not that you can't, integrate new things into the company and evolve it, but you have to stay disciplined to your vision. You have to stay disciplined to your values, your culture, and stay disciplined to, how you take care of your people. That's your brand. That's your identity. You got to stay disciplined to that and get really, really good at it. If you're constantly evolving and moving and changing, and then people get confused, creates frustration, you can't build excellence on top of, erratic types of things. So and so it was instilled in me as a young man to be disciplined.
Who taught you that, if you don't mind me asking?
So it all started with my mom and my dad. Yeah. They grew up from humble beginnings, didn't have a whole lot. We struggled, as a kid in the construction business. We lived in Florida, so it was seasonal. When it's cold outside, nobody wants you in their house at Christmas and it's cold. Painting and remodeling. So you have to really be disciplined to do the work you need to do when it's warmer and, make adjustments when it's colder to really survive in that business. But, he taught me a lot about discipline to do things right the first time.
Amen.
Do things right the first time. Quality matters more than quantity. And I saw him turn down many jobs because they wanted, the homeowner was trying to be cheap, or they tried to cut corners, or and he would not do it. And I a couple of times I'm like, "You really, Dad? We really want to pass up this opportunity." But he was disciplined to that, and he was disciplined to doing it the right way. That followed suit when I played sports. I played, football, baseball, basketball, a lot of different sports growing up as a young man. And I had, back in those times, people were tough. They coached you the hard way.
Yeah.
You didn't go home until you did it right.
Yeah.
If you didn't run the play right, you were going to stay out there until midnight if need be, right? And it was discipline to excellence, discipline to doing it the right way. And that mixed with some other things in my life, with church and other aspects of my life, kind of formed my, we'll call it, moral compass about how I view things and how I approach things. And that going forward has stayed with me, no matter where I've lived, from the battlefield to the boardrooms. Those kind of principles have stayed with me, and it's been kind of the epicenter for my leadership style and how I decided to lead organizations.
Yeah, wow, that's excellent, and I can kind of relate with that a lot. Well, one, just because my father, to this day, still owns a construction company. He's a general contractor now, builds houses, and is one of the most disciplined people I know. And I unfortunately have to say that my story, I feel, is slightly different than yours in that I just had to learn things the hard way. So I was not disciplined growing up. I come from a great family of loud, opinionated Germans. And so we all have opinions. We all have large foreheads. We're great people. I love my family very much. And my dad is just a very self-disciplined person. My mom was as well. And they've found a lot of success in that. And I had to be taught that through years and years and years of hard knocks, of seeing, or not necessarily seeing, but expecting something, not working for it, and then being disappointed at the end when I didn't have it. And I hate to say this, but it's only been within the last probably 5 to 10 years as I've graduated from college, dipped my toes into some higher education above that, and then launched into kind of into the workforce. I've really started to see, oh my goodness, that my father was right, that discipline really does matter. And I've finally started to see the outpourings and rewards of what that actually looks like. And so absolutely, I would love to just attest that discipline is one of the first steps towards leadership. Self-discipline, getting up in the morning, doing what you say you're going to do, serving people in a way that they can actually see instead of just serving yourself. Absolutely beautiful aspects of what turns into just a great practice of leadership. So let's talk about the main question for this episode. Are leaders born or are they made? Given everything that we've talked about, the misconceptions, the people have plenty of ways to do leadership wrong, and then the necessary things like self-discipline, like service, things like that. Are leaders born or are they made?
Complex answer. The answer is yes, and the answer is no.
Uh-oh. Tell us what you mean.
Are leaders born? Well, leaders are human beings, and we're all born. So yes, we're all born, right? Are leaders made? Yes and no. You can train somebody, you can develop somebody, you can kind of wrap around somebody and create some leadership, but it doesn't mean they're a leader. Just because they have knowledge, just because you've given them opportunities, doesn't mean they embraced it, embodied that, and took that on and did something with it. Right?
That's really good.
I know many people that went to college and got a graduate level degree. And it doesn't mean they're a millionaire.
Yeah.
I know people that have done a lot of things in life and got a lot of education, been a lot of places around the world, and they've gone nowhere. I've been everywhere, but nowhere. They went a lot of places fast, and, they just went nowhere fast.
Yeah.
Right? And so leadership is about, one, having the desire in yourself to continuously improve yourself. Leadership is about continuously chasing excellence, not only in yourself, but for everywhere you're engaged. If you notice, leaders are very balanced people. The most successful leaders are very balanced people, spiritually, mentally, physically, psychologically. They're balanced people. Yeah. They're not just a leader at work and a couch potato at home. Yeah. They're not a leader at the office and then kind of a back row Baptist at church, right? Yeah. The leaders tend to be seen as leaders everywhere they go. They just kind of have this thing about them where they just are servants. They're giving, they're thinking, they're contributing. It's about I'm in the moment, how can I contribute to, accomplish something wherever I'm at, no matter what the problem is. I've been on vacation and then we've gotten stranded somewhere, and I find myself jumping into action and doing something to move the initiative forward to get where we need to get, right? Is that me, trying to control everything? No, that there's just leadership qualities there. I've seen where a lot of people, we send them to leadership schools, we bring in guest speakers, we bring in experts, we have videos, online training, whatever. We wrap things around people and then they never grasp it.
Yeah.
Now, when I say grasp it, they mentally get it. They wrote the notes, they understand the concepts, but they don't grasp it. They don't grab it. It's not
applied.
They don't own it. They don't want to own it. Some people just don't want to lead. That's a lot of responsibility. I got to be thinking about stuff all the time. I just want to go to work and do my thing and then go home when I want to go home and do what I want to do. And they're more comfortable, kind of being on the fringes or being, under the radar, so to speak. And there's nothing wrong with that.
Not at all.
Nothing wrong with that at all. Being a leader is a lot of responsibility because you're a mile wide and an inch deep if you're doing it right. And you just have to think about so many things at the same time, from budgeting and P&L to growing the business, scaling the business, to finding new leaders, growing people, investing in the community to whatever. You're spread so thin, and it's a lot. And certain people run to that, and certain people run away from that. And so that's a lot of people come to me and they say, "Hey, can you mentor me? Can you talk to me about this? And I want to be a leader, and I want to learn this, and I want." What they're saying is, I like the success that I see certain leaders have. I like the end state. It's kind of the analogy of an iceberg. You're in a boat, you're on top of the water, and you see what's sticking out above the waterline. The success, the money, the fame, the fortune, the titles, the fancy offices, the parking spots, and all the things people think of when you think of leadership. People in positions of leadership. But what they don't see is all the stuff below that waterline, that 2/3 of the iceberg is underneath the waterline. Only about 1/3 of it sticks up above it. Well, what's underneath that? Hard work, discipline, failure, rejection, late nights, sacrifices, going to school at 2, 3 in the morning so you don't wake up your family so you can continue your education, traveling, just time, effort, energy that it goes into being a leader, a successful leader, the right kind of leader. They don't see that. A lot of people, they want the end result, but they're not willing to do what it takes to do the things that are supporting all of that underneath the iceberg. And a lot of people come to me and wanted to train them, teach them, coach them, mentor them. And I'll lean into them. I'll start putting the pressure of that iceberg on their shoulders. And some people, they get excited. They just start grasping it, climbing it. They climb on top of that iceberg and throw ice balls at everybody and have a good time with it.
My iceberg is better than your iceberg.
But a lot of people, once they start feeling what this is really like, when you pull back the curtain and really, okay, this is day in the life of a leader. Are you staying late to get this thing done because the client's waiting on it and it's on your desk right now?
Yeah.
Nobody cares about the other 400 things you got going on. You got to deliver tonight. Are you willing to do what it takes? Are you willing to go visit a member of your team in the hospital who just got in a car wreck and is injured and is not at work, are you willing to go see them after work and take up your personal family time to go encourage them, to go tell them everything's going to be okay, we got your back, we're going to take care of everything at work, you just worry about taking care of you right now, and look forward to having you back, and really doing those kinds of things. And sometimes people, Joel, aren't willing to put forth that kind of blood, sweat, and tears. They're not willing to make those kind of sacrifices. They like the end result of what that looks like. I use the analogy, The Rock, Dwayne Johnson. Everybody likes The Rock. He's funny. He's big. He's strong. He's motivational, and everything he does, he's successful. Football, movies, wrestling, all this. And he's a very, passionate guy, and he is successful at everything he's done. He just came out with a energy drink, tequila. I mean, just everything this guy does, he touches like gold. It's just successful. Well, that's not an accident. It's not because, he's a cool guy to hang out with, therefore everything around him is successful. No. You want to be like The Rock and be big and strong and athletic and six-pack abs and have his work ethic and be like him? Okay, great. Are you going to get up at 5 a.m. and work out for an hour and a half?
Yeah.
Not many people are willing to get out of bed at 5 o'clock in the morning to work out, to put in that kind of energy. Are you willing to, do the things The Rock does and carry the workload of 15, 16, 20-hour days sometimes when he's filming movies and all these other ventures he's doing? No. Yeah. But they like the image that he has, and they want his money. They want the end result. And so people have to want it.
Yeah.
They have to be willing to do what it takes to do it. They have to be informed. A lot of people aren't really informed. There's two kinds of people in the world. There's the informed and the uninformed. And the more you can inform yourself about leadership, the more you genuinely connect with that, and that creates this passion and burning desire in you to do it, creates a champion level leader. Tom Brady has a burning desire and has had one for his whole entire life. When he was in high school, when he was in college, and certainly in the pros, he had a burning desire to be the quarterback. Kind of like Michael Jordan's story. He envisioned himself at a young age on the basketball court. He envisioned himself in a major championship game, and when he would throw, wow, he shoots the basketball better than anybody. He was a great free throw shooter. Yet he had rehearsed that vision in his mind so many times before he stepped onto the court. But when he stepped onto the court, he wasn't nervous. He wasn't intimidated. He'd already been there many, many times, and all he had to do was just go execute.
Absolutely. So, and I hear you saying the word willing a lot. So what that makes me think is that, just kind of to wrap this all up, is leadership a choice?
Leadership is absolutely a choice. You have to wake up and make an intentional, conscious decision. I'm going to be a leader today. If you do not, you will not be a leader.
Absolutely.
You have to accept that. You have to I'm going to be a leader. No different than, you meeting the girl of your dreams or the guy of your dreams, and you spend time together, and there's a certain point where you decide, we're going to spend the rest of our lives together. We're going to create a family, and you decide to do it, and then you go do it.
Yeah.
Same in leadership.
Beautiful. And it always seems that any choice really that people make always requires action. So everything that we've been talking about through, just this last few minutes, that discipline is absolutely necessary for leadership, that being a servant-hearted individual is absolutely necessary for leadership. Those are the choices that go along with the choice to be a leader.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So just wrapping up, just kind of one of my last questions. So I say that I've made that choice. I've made the choice that I want to be a leader. I want to self-educate. I want to get up. I want to to steal a quote from my dad, who probably stole it from someone else. I want to live like no one else. I'm going to have to live like no one else. So I've made that decision. How do I grow specifically, or even just practically, in that leadership, in my, we'll say, career? How do I grow in my career as a leader after I've made that choice?
Yeah, that's a great question. Very powerful. I like that quote too. I'm going to have to get that from you.
I'll probably need to Google that, because I'm sure I'd need to probably attribute that to the actual person.
Make sure that's not trademarked or something.
Not Paul from Colorado, my good father.
Excellent quote, though. I love it. So you made the decision to be a leader. So first off, congratulations if you've decided to do that, because that's a decision that a lot of people don't make. 20-30% of the people in the world end up being leaders that evolve and run these organizations. And that means something. You've decided to do something that a lot of people are unwilling or potentially even unable to do. Very similar to like running for President of the United States or Senate or Congress or something, right? There's decisions made there that people aren't willing to do, but they're doing it for the greater good. And it's very admirable. But after you make that decision, go look at yourself in the mirror. Look at yourself in the mirror and say, how can I serve today?
That's a great question. Wow.
How can I, Joel, looking in the mirror at yourself at 7 o'clock in the morning before you've had your coffee, how can I add value to someone or something today?
Wow.
That's the first next step. The second thing you should think about, once you kind of think about that, you're in your car, you're driving to work, and you're like, wow, that's pretty powerful. How can I do that? I need to think through that. Once you've crossed that bridge, the next thing to think about there is, how can I surround myself with the right kinds of people that can help me and my team and the organization be successful? How can I surround my team, my subordinates, my peers with the right types of things that they need to be their best? That's where I would start. And those are not easy questions to answer. That takes a lot of thought. There's a lot of connecting tissue that connects a lot of that stuff together. But that is, in my opinion, those first next steps for somebody to kind of move down that leadership path. And then from there, get a mentor, find a coach, somebody you like, you trust, that's been down the road, that's achieved things that you may want to achieve, because leadership's lonely. You can't go gripe to the people below you. At least you shouldn't. You can't go to your competitors. You can't necessarily go to your peers. And there's only so many things you really want to take to your boss all the time. And you certainly can't go home and, dump on your spouse all the time. There's a certain amount of things they just don't understand. And there's a certain amount of things that they just don't want to take on,
Yeah, absolutely.
and take on that extra pain as well. So you've got to find, as a leader, some people that get it, that get you, that you can simply talk to and share, and it's okay to talk, and just vent and just run ideas by people, but find a solid coach, mentor, somebody that you feel really good about, and cling to them and just be a sponge and learn and listen and ask questions, and then go from there.
Man, that's great, Jason. And to be honest, I'm very unsatisfied, because I want a lot more information than what than what you just gave there. But hey, that's why we're doing this podcast, to be able to dive deep into all those things. And I really do hope, and I'm excited that we'll be able to dive deeper into those aspects of leadership, business, and business coaching itself. So we're going to leave you there today, friends. But thank you for listening to the Soar Higher podcast with Jason Ballard. All our social links for LinkedIn, Facebook, and Instagram will be in the show notes of this episode. Please like and subscribe. We're always looking for new ways to interact with our listeners. So if you're interested in learning more about Jason specifically and his work as a business and executive coach, please visit soarhighercoaching.com. That's soarhighercoaching.com. And then join us again next week as we provide more insight on how to overcome the latest business and career challenges people are facing in the workforce today. See you next week. Man, I think we might need to do an episode on